Hey, thanks for dropping by to the Planners on Purpose podcast, created by Naomi Tucker, CMP. Now, this space is for the event planners to encourage and empower you so that you can fully live your life on purpose. So before we dig in, please take a moment to subscribe so you get future shows. Now, here she comes, your host, Naomi.
Well, hi everyone, this is Naomi. Welcome back to another episode here at the Planners on Purpose podcast. Very excited to be with you today. We are going to be talking about burnout, and I wanted to come from the perspective of some things that you should avoid doing if you are burned out. So I have some tips here, some things that, let's say, I have learned over the years, either through experience of my own or seeing others go through these experiences while managing and leading others. And it's just helpful if you find yourself that you're in a position where you are disengaged, you have had it, you're exhausted, you're overwhelmed, and you just know that you're burnt. You want to make sure that you're avoiding these things. So if that is you, this is an episode to help you along to not make things get worse as you're going through this tough period of potential burnout. So without further ado, I wanted to go ahead and get started. So the first thing that I have for you, if you are in a position that you are burned out, is to not take it out on others. That's right. Now, this happens, and this is one that's very tricky in that you definitely have to be hyper aware about yourself, about your actions, and about your responses, right? Because at any given time, because you have literally burnt the wick at each end and you are completely toast, there's no filter. There is nothing but just dry crumbs laying all over the place. What you need to do is just not take it out on anyone else. So this would be with your colleagues at work. I'm even talking about maybe your spouse or partner at home and also your kids. It is very easy when you are in this position to just snap. And you want to make sure that you're aware of the fact of, I'm going through this season right now and I really am not okay. So I have to really limit my responses to others so that I do not take it out on other people, thus making those relationships even more strained. So that's my first tip for you, is to avoid taking what you have out on others. Now, there's something to say about having a safe space to go to. So having people to talk to, maybe at work, you might have a friend, or outside of work, you might have a close family member that you can actually talk to about some of the things that you're going through. Someone that you can confide in and possibly vent to just a little bit, right? There is a maximum, and we'll talk about that later. But this is a really good tip for us if we're understanding that we're going through a trying time and need to really filter through someone that is strong enough to be able to kind of handle some of the things that we are going through. In addition, you might find that working through a coach would be helpful in a way to help you get to a very positive mental space, right? That can really help you to find how to place some of your feelings and get you into a better mindful spot. So working with a coach like myself could be also helpful for you too, because at times it's very hard for the people in your life to understand what you're going through in the way that you're going through it, and understand how to receive some of that energy that you have. And some of that energy can be very negative that's sent at them, or it's through an unfiltered response that you may kind of project. So definitely make sure to not take it out on others. So my second area of this for you that we don't want you to do when you're burned out, or to avoid doing, is taking on additional projects. I don't know what it is, but whenever we get to be at our busiest, I think it must be a magnet for other people coming to us, asking us to take on yet another thing. Now, this is again it gets you between a rock and a hard place sometimes, because you do want to help out your team. You do want to be able to be available. Perhaps you're working towards a promotion, or you want to be seen as someone that contributes at a higher capacity. But let's just face it, if you are spinning your wheels, if you are deflated, if you are exhausted, there is not necessarily anything more that you can do that's going to be helpful. At this particular time, you have to be very mindful of how much additional you take on, because you could ruin you taking on anything additional in the future, because you'll be maxed out and burned out. So try not to take on additional projects. Avoid them like the plague. Definitely decline them politely. Now, this can be personally, because sometimes we are thrown projects at home as well. If you're burnt out or kind of nearing burned out in your job, you probably don't want to go through a renovation in your home. Maybe not the time. Maybe we need to kind of delay that project until later. When you're in positions like this, something does have to give. So we need to put appropriate boundaries on our work and appropriate capacities on our work and our lives. So that is very important. Something needs to shift in order for things to change in your life. And you have to make those decisions in order to ensure that you can become a little bit more stable in some of the things that you're doing. All right, moving on. We will go to the next one. Now, if you're burned out, we want to avoid making major life decisions, because it happens. We get so tapped out to the point where we're just desperate about being stable. We're desperate about feeling some sort of normalcy in our lives that we make very rash decisions. Now, you may be asking, well, what kind of rash decisions are you talking about? Well, it could be like you want to change jobs altogether. You don't even like the job that you're doing right now. Perhaps you want to go over there and have the job that Susie is doing. That could be a possibility for you. So you put in for that change, hoping that the shift in jobs can help you with where you are right now in your burnout. Also, maybe you just quit your job altogether. Quit your job altogether. Go get another job. That is also a really major decision. And if you are in a position where you are burned out, we want to be very mindful about decisions like that. Really think it through and make sure that we're in our right mind before we do anything so major. And then also, you could be buying something like a house or a car, or just moving to a totally different place. Those are some big major life decisions that you might want to check again. Maybe wait until you get to a position where you're a bit more stable before you make those decisions. So that is something that you also want to avoid, is making major life decisions. All right. The next one. Now, if you are just exhausted, you want to make sure that you don't let yourself go. We need to take care of ourselves. So don't let yourself go. We want to make sure that we're doing our hair, that we're dressing, that we're not just, we're dressing, of course, but we're just being our best selves, right? And sometimes when we get to the point where things are a challenge, it's a challenge to hold everything together. So we, especially with the remote workspaces and where we are right now, it's okay to just put your hair up in that sloppy bun, to not put on any, chapstick, lipstick, to be in your stretchy pants, to avoid your workout. Well, sooner or later, 6 months of doing that and avoiding your workout, it can mean detriment to your health. I've very well seen leaders have high blood pressure, gaining weight, and not necessarily seeing it creep up on them. So make sure that you're taking care of yourself, making sure you're eating properly, you're resting, you're just making sure that your appearance is normal. Take pride in your appearance. And when you do those things, it really improves your your mindset. It improves your happiness level as well, because you just know that you're taking care of yourself. So if you're going to do anything, make sure that you're taking care of you during this time, because you are what matters and you are what's more important during this time. All right. Now, the next area I would love for you to avoid is complaining. And you may remember in the first little tip I had for you with taking out on others was to really just avoid complaining. And this is just excessive complaining. Yes, we want people to be able to go to confide in, to really go through some of the situation maybe that we're having at work, or just to really talk through things. But there is a point where things get to just complaining, because when you find yourself having to rehash it and rehash it and rehash it, talking to your friend about it over and over and over again, and you're talking to it with so many people, it's not doing anything good. We want to make sure that your complaining is not necessarily going to get you anywhere. To talk to someone about your situation in an effort to gain clarity and then gain action on what you need to do about it is the route you should take. But complaining and not necessarily tweaking and refining your life is not necessarily the best way to go. So make sure that instead of complaining, that you put together an action plan on how to adjust things in your life to get yourself a little bit more out of the situation that you're currently in. That will make a big difference. It will make a big difference. The next area that you want to avoid is avoid staying the course. Like I mentioned before, you want to have an action plan. We want to avoid just keeping things the same. And I think this is where a lot of event planners and event professionals seem to kind of drop the ball here, is because we will continue to go ahead, plan through that event with the expectation that the event will come to an end soon, and we will get a little break after the event, but then we're going to go back into, let's say, another event, working the same way that we've worked before. That's the challenge, and that's what I want you to avoid. If you just stay the course, then what's going to change, right? There's nothing that will change, because you're not changing either, number one, how you work, number two, how you delegate, number three, how you think. There's so many areas that you can adjust and change to make your planning experience the next time so much better. So make sure that we're doing the little small tweaks that you can do in order to make that big difference. All right, the next one is not getting enough sleep. I've talked about this before when it comes to taking care of yourself, but sleep is very important, that it deserves a whole subject on its own. When you get the sleep that you need, you are in a better mindset. You're able to think clearer. You're able to make sound judgment. So I know many times when we are exhausted, we're exhausted because we're depleted and we have worked all of our waking hours, and then we're also working all of our sleep hours too, getting probably less than 6 hours of sleep, and turning around, getting up the next day with a pot full of coffee, trying to make it happen. If we continue to take on that kind of behavior every single, month after month and year after year, that can really be at a detriment to our health. So making sure that we're instilling those good behaviors now and are going to be super helpful. So get enough sleep. If you can get 7 hours, 7 is minimal, and let's do 7 to 10 hours of sleep each night. I know it might sound like it's a lot, and you might be able to get away with doing less, but definitely you want to make sure that you're getting really good sleep to the point where you wake up, you're not tired and you're ready to wake up and take on your day. All right. Now, the last one that we have here is, if you are burned out and you're overwhelmed and you're stressed, you want to avoid drowning your trouble in food, alcohol, or anything addicting, right? And I know this one is a toughie too, because I think a lot of people that work hard, they like to play hard too. We like to go to our happy hours. We like to, play hard after the events that we plan, but it also can be an easy road for becoming addicted, right? When you're even working at home, I know even for me, when I get in times of stress, I like salty, crunchy things. So many times it can be easy to skip over lunch and just go into, popcorn or some chips or something like that. Making sure that you're intentional about having fresh veggies around, having those fruits around, and healthy snacks are going to be very important for you during your day. I know when I've made that change, it really helped me because I'm here at home all alone. The refrigerator is right there. It's so easy to kind of just go into, but making the change to have healthy things and easy things was so much helpful for me. So I know it will be helpful for you. So making sure that we're not drowning our trouble always in food, that we aren't always drowning it in alcohol too, because that can be a slippery slope, and to make sure that we're having healthy habits that also combat when we need to vent out or get rid of some of our worries and some of our stress. And how do we do that? Little things. We can go out on walks. We can have a conversation. We can exercise, right? We can have little dance parties in our office. I love those dance parties. But there are a lot of things that we can do in order to just kind of combat that stress instead of going to more addictive behavior. All right, that was it. Those are the 8 things that I had for you to avoid if you are burned out and overwhelmed. I hope that these were helpful for you. What are some things that resonated with you? I would really like to know. Go ahead and put those in the comments. Otherwise, I am going to leave you be, and I will be looking forward to the next episode. And you know it, until next time, please stay on purpose.
Well, that wraps it up for this episode. If you enjoyed the conversation, hit the like button and tell us how much you enjoyed the show by leaving a message in the comments. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.